Dr. Lisa Carter was sitting in her small research camp when she heard the ships coming. The sound of engines filled the air above the old ruins she had been studying for 6 months. She looked up from her notes and saw 3 black shapes moving, fast across the sky. The ships were not like anything she had seen before. They were smooth and dark, with no lights or markings. They moved in perfect formation, like they were controlled by one mind. Lisa felt her heart start beating faster. Something was wrong. She grabbed her radio and tried to call the trading post in orbit above threshold. Static filled her ears. The ships had cut off all communication. Lisa ran to her equipment shelter and started recording everything she could see. The 3 ships landed near the old Zephyrian military base 5 miles away. Lisa had explored that base many times. It had been empty for decades, full of broken equipment and dust. Why would anyone want to go there now? Through her telescope, Lisa watched strange figures come out of the ships. They were tall and moved, like they were floating instead of walking. They wore armor that seemed to bend light around it, making them hard to see clearly. The figures went into the old base and did not come out. 2 hours later, a bright flash lit up the sky. The ground shook under Lisa's feet. When the light faded, the old base was gone. Just gone. There was only a smooth crater where it used to be. The 3 black ships rose into the sky and disappeared into space. Lisa's hands shook as she saved her recordings. She had been studying the ruins on Threshold because they told a story that did not match what the history books said. The ruins were older than they should be. They showed signs of a battle that was not supposed to have happened. Now someone had destroyed the only other place on the planet that might have more answers. Lisa packed her equipment as fast as she could. She needed to get off Threshold before the black ships came back. On the other side of the galaxy, Commander Alex Stone was having a bad day. His ship, the Venture, had been sent to investigate reports of attacks on Zephyrian colonies. 3 worlds had gone quiet in the past 2 weeks. No distress calls, no messages, nothing. The Venture was an Earth exploration ship with a crew of 40 humans. They were supposed to be mapping new star systems and looking for planets humans could live on. Instead, they kept getting pulled into other people's problems. Alex stood on the bridge and looked at the planet below. New Harmony had been a peaceful Zephyrian colony with 2 million people. Now it was silent. The cities were still there, but no one was answering radio calls. "Take us down to the main city," Alex told his pilot, Lieutenant Sam Foster. Sam was young, but he was good at his job. He had joined the crew straight from Earth's Space Academy. "Yes, sir," Sam said. "Should I prepare the landing team?" "Just a small group," Alex replied. "I want to see what happened here, but I do not want to take any chances." The Venture landed in the center of New Harmony's capital city. The buildings were intact but empty. Cars sat in the streets with their doors open. Food was still on tables in restaurants, but it had gone bad days ago. Alex led a team of 6 people through the empty streets. Dr. Jenny Walsh, the ship's scientist, scanned everything with her equipment. She found no bodies, no signs of fighting, and no radiation. "It is like everyone just disappeared," Jenny said. "There are no traces of weapons being used, no damage to buildings. People just left everything and vanished." They found the same thing at the government building and the spaceport. Ships were still parked in their bays. Important documents were left on desks. It was like 2 million people had just stopped what they were doing and walked away. In the Planetary Defense Center, Alex found something strange. The computers were still working, but they showed no record of any attack. The last entry in the log was from 3 days ago. A technician had written about detecting unusual energy signatures at the edge of the system. "Commander," Sam's voice came over the radio from the ship. "We are picking up movement in orbit. 3 unknown ships just appeared out of nowhere." Alex looked up at the sky. He could not see anything, but his heart started beating faster. "What kind of ships, Sam?" "I have never seen anything like them, sir. They are black, no markings, and they are not responding to our radio calls. They are moving toward us." Alex and his team ran back to the Venture as fast as they could. By the time they reached the ship, the 3 black ships were already in the upper atmosphere. They looked exactly like the ships Lisa Carter had seen on Threshold. "Get us out of here now," Alex ordered as soon as he reached the bridge. The Venture lifted off and climbed toward space. The three black ships followed but did not attack. They just watched as the human ship left the system. As they jumped to faster than light speed, Alex thought about what they had found. New Harmony was not destroyed. The people were not killed. They were just gone, like they had never existed at all. On Earth, Admiral Kate Williams was reading reports from all over human space. Merchant ships, explorers, and traders were sending in stories about strange attacks on both Zephyrian and Chronari worlds. The attacks all followed the same pattern. Black ships would appear, target military sites, and disappear. No one was left to tell what happened. Kate looked at the star map on her wall. Red marks showed where attacks had happened. The pattern was clear. Someone was systematically taking apart both empires' ability to fight wars. But who could do such a thing? And why were they being so careful to avoid civilian populations? The treaty between the Zephyrians and Chronari was only 3 months old. Both sides were still licking their wounds from the big battle. They did not have the strength to launch new attacks on each other, but someone else did. Someone who had been watching and waiting. Someone who knew exactly where to strike to cause the most damage with the least effort. Kate picked up her secure communicator and started making calls. Earth's scattered fleet needed to be ready. Whatever was happening, out there humans might be next on the list. The sky above New Geneva split open like a giant wound. Ships the size of cities came through the tear in space, their dark hulls blocking out the sun. Dr. Lisa Carter watched from her hiding spot in the research bunker as humanity's newest colony became a battlefield. She had made it off Threshold just in time. Her message to Captain Jake Morrison had worked. He had picked her up 3 days before the black ships returned to finish destroying the planet. Now they were both trapped on New Geneva when the real enemy finally showed themselves. The ships were not black this time. They were silver and gold, covered in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Lisa counted 12 of them, each one larger than the biggest space station she had ever seen. They moved without making any sound, floating through the air like they weighed nothing. "What are those things?" Jake asked. He crouched next to Lisa, holding a pair of binoculars. His face was pale and his hands shook slightly. "I think they are the architects," Lisa whispered back. "The race I found records of in the ruins. The ones the Zephyrians and Chronari tried to erase from history." A voice filled the air around them. It did not come from speakers. It came from inside their heads, speaking directly to their minds. The voice was calm and cold like winter wind through empty space. "Young races of this galaxy," the voice said, "you have proven yourselves unworthy through endless conflict. We are the architects. We ruled here before your species learned to make fire. We return now to restore order." Lisa felt sick. The voice pressed against her thoughts, trying to get deeper into her mind. She could feel something trying to read her memories, looking through her life like pages in a book. "Your wars end today," the voice continued. "We will return you to your primitive origins. You will know peace through simplicity. Those who resist will be unmade." Above them, smaller ships began dropping from the giant vessels. They looked like silver teardrops, each one the size of a fighter plane. Hundreds of them filled the sky, heading toward the human settlements below. Jake grabbed Lisa's arm. "We need to move. The bunker will not protect us if they scan for life signs." They ran through the underground tunnels that connected the research facility to the main colony. Lisa carried a bag full of data chips and ancient artifacts she had found on Threshold. Jake had his pistol, though they both knew it would be useless against technology this advanced. The tunnel shook as explosions started above them. Through the metal walls they could hear the sound of buildings falling down. But there were no screams, no sounds of people running or fighting, just the quiet noise of destruction. They reached an emergency exit near the colony's edge. Jake carefully opened the door and looked outside. The sight made him step back in shock. The colonists were walking calmly toward the silver ships. Men, women, and children all moved in the same steady pace, their faces blank and empty. They looked like sleepwalkers, following orders they could not hear. Mind control, Lisa breathed. The architects are taking control of their thoughts. Jake watched his friend Peter Chen walk past with his wife and 2 kids. Peter's eyes were wide open but seeing nothing. His family followed behind him like robots programmed to follow simple commands. "Why are we not affected?" Jake asked. Lisa thought about it. She had been studying alien psychology for years. Maybe because we were underground when they started, or maybe because we were already suspicious and had our guard up, I do not know. They watched the colonists board the silver ships in neat lines. No one spoke. No one resisted. The architect voice had promised to return them to primitive origins, and Lisa was starting to understand what that meant. "They are going to take away everything that makes us human," she said. "Our technology, our knowledge, our ability to think for ourselves. They want to turn us into simple animals." Jake's radio crackled to life. Voices filled with static came through, human voices calling for help from all over the colony. Some people were still free, still fighting. "This is Captain Morrison." Jake spoke into the radio. "Anyone who can hear this, stay underground or in shielded buildings. The enemy is using some kind of mind control. Do not look directly at their ships." "Jake, is that you?" a woman's voice answered. "This is Beth Collins from the Defense Force. We have about 30 people holed up in the armory. The metal walls seem to block their control signals." "We are on our way," Jake replied. As they moved through the tunnels toward the armory, Lisa's equipment started beeping. Her scanners were picking up strange energy readings from the architect ships. "Jake, look at this," she said, showing him the display. "Their ships are generating some kind of harmonic frequency. It is like they are singing, but we cannot hear it. The song is what controls people's minds. Can we block it? Maybe. If we can figure out the right frequency to interfere with their signal." Lisa's mind was racing. Human music has complex rhythms and emotional patterns. Most alien music is very mathematical and orderly. What if we tried playing human music loud enough to disrupt their harmony? Jake looked at her like she was crazy. "You want to fight advanced aliens with rock and roll? It might work. Their technology seems to depend on perfect order and harmony. Human music is chaotic, emotional, unpredictable. It might be exactly what we need." They reached the armory to find Major Beth Collins organizing the survivors. She was a tough woman in her 40s who had served in Earth's military for 20 years. Her people had gathered weapons and supplies, but they all knew guns would not help much against ships that could control minds. "We need to get word to Admiral Williams on Earth," Beth said. "If these architects can do this to one colony, they can do it to all of them." "The communications array is in the main building," Jake said. "It is probably overrun by now." "Then we make our own," Lisa said. "I have been thinking. If we can boost a signal using the right frequency, we might be able to cut through their interference. But we need to act fast. More of their ships will be coming." Outside, the silver ships were lifting off, full of mind-controlled humans. The architects had taken their first prize from humanity. But in the armory, 30 free humans were planning to fight back in the most human way possible, with stubborn determination and crazy ideas that just might work. Lieutenant Sam Foster could not believe what he was seeing on his scanner. The Aurora, Captain Morrison's old trading ship, was attacking an architect supply convoy with nothing but loud music and a cargo hold full of stolen equipment. "They are using jazz music as a weapon," Sam told Commander Stone over the radio. "The architect ships are spinning out of control every time Morrison plays that saxophone solo." Alex Stone shook his head as he watched the battle from the bridge of the Venture. 3 weeks had passed since the architects revealed themselves. Most of the galaxy had already fallen under their control. The Zephyrians and Chronari had tried to fight back, but their organized military tactics were useless against an enemy that could predict every move. Humans were different. They did not follow rules. They made up crazy plans that should not work but somehow did. "Tell Morrison to pull back," Alex ordered. "We have what we came for." The mission had been simple in theory. Sneak into an architect processing facility and rescue survivors before they could be turned into mindless workers. In practice, it meant using human unpredictability to confuse technology that had ruled the galaxy for millions of years. Dr. Lisa Carter sat in the Aurora's cargo hold, surrounded by rescued Zephyrians and Chronari. She was playing Earth folk songs on a small guitar while monitoring the frequencies on her equipment. The aliens looked confused but grateful. The music seemed to help clear their minds after the architect conditioning. The harmony frequencies are breaking down, Lisa reported to Jake over the ship's intercom. Keep playing that Miles Davis recording. It is scrambling their coordination signals. Jake Morrison had never expected to become a resistance leader, but that was exactly what had happened. Word had spread through the human colonies about the crazy traitor who fought architect ships with music and random tactics. Other humans started copying his methods. Major Beth Collins was leading ground operations on 12 different worlds. Her teams used rock concerts as cover for rescue missions. They played heavy metal music so loud it shorted out architects' scanning equipment. They fought with no plan at all, making decisions based on coin flips and gut feelings. The architects could not understand it. Their technology was designed to counter logical military strategies. They could predict what organized armies would do next. But they could not predict what humans would do because humans themselves did not know until they did it. "Morrison, this is Admiral Williams." Kate's voice came through the radio from Earth. "What is your status?" "We got 43 survivors from the processing center," Jake replied. "The music trick is working better than we hoped. The architects seem to be having trouble adapting to our chaos." "Good. I have news from the front lines. The Zephyrian Admiral Kalox is alive. He escaped when his flagship was captured. He wants to meet with us." Jake was surprised. The Zephyrians want to work with humans? Apparently, we are the only ones still fighting effectively. Kalox lost his entire fleet trying to use traditional tactics. He wants to learn how we are disrupting their systems. 2 days later, Jake found himself in a secret meeting on an asteroid base. Admiral Kalox looked different from other Zephyrians Jake had met. His blue skin was darker, marked with scars from battles. His large eyes showed fear and desperation. "Your species confuses me," Kalox said through a translation device. "Zephyrians think in ordered patterns. We plan our actions carefully. The architects can read our thoughts and predict our moves, but they cannot read human minds. Why, Doctor?" Carter looked up from her notes. "Human brains work differently. We make connections between random ideas. We feel emotions that change how we think. Our thoughts jump around in ways that seem crazy to other species. This chaos of yours," Kalox said slowly, "can it be taught?" "Not really," Lisa replied. "It comes naturally to humans, but we can teach you how to use it, how to fight without a plan, how to make decisions based on feelings instead of logic." Commander Stone joined the conversation. "We captured some architect communication equipment. Lisa has been studying how it works. Their entire civilization is based on perfect harmony. Every individual is connected to every other individual. They share one big collective mind. That is their strength," Kalox said. "But it could also be their weakness. If we could disrupt that connection—" "We are already doing it on a small scale," Jake said. "Human music creates interference in their harmony, but we need something bigger, something that could affect their entire collective." Lisa pulled out a data pad covered with equations and musical notes. "I have been working on a theory. What if we could build a device that broadcasts human brain patterns, not just music but actual human thoughts and emotions?" "A chaos generator," Alex said, understanding immediately. Something that could make the architect collective experience human confusion and unpredictability. Exactly. But it would need to be powerful enough to reach their home base, and we would need someone to get close enough to their central control system to plant it. The room fell silent as everyone realized what that meant. It would be a suicide mission. Getting close to the architect home base would require flying through the most heavily defended space in the galaxy. "I will do it," Jake said quietly. "No," Kalox spoke up. "We will do it together. Zephyrian technology with human unpredictability. My people have faster ships. Your people have better ideas. Over the next week, they built the strangest weapon in galactic history. It looked like a radio combined with a music player and a computer that had been struck by lightning. Lisa loaded it with recordings of human laughter, crying, anger, and joy. She added jazz music, rock and roll, children's songs, and poetry readings. "If this works," she told Jake as they prepared to leave, "it will introduce pure human chaos into the most ordered mind in the universe. It could destroy the architect, collective completely." "And if it does not work?" Jake asked. "Then we will probably die in very creative ways," Lisa replied with a grin that was purely human. The small fleet of human and Zephyrian ships jumped into hyperspace, heading toward the architect home system. They had no careful plan, no backup, strategy, and no idea if their crazy weapon would actually work. In other words, it was the most human approach possible to saving the galaxy. The architect home system was like nothing Jake Morrison had ever seen. A massive structure floated in space where a planet should be. It was built from crystallized starlight and folded dimensions, bigger than most moons but somehow existing in several places at once. "That is their central mind," Admiral Kalok said over the radio. His Zephyrian ship flew alongside Jake's Aurora as they approached the impossible structure. "Every architect consciousness is connected to it. If we can plant your chaos device there, it will affect them all." Jake looked at the readings on his scanner. Thousands of architect ships moved around the structure in perfect patterns like a dance that had been going on for millions of years. Getting close enough to plant Dr. Carter's device seemed impossible. "Remember the plan." Lisa's voice came through the intercom from the Aurora's cargo hold. "We do not have a plan. We just go in and see what happens. That is what the architects cannot predict." Jake laughed despite the danger. Only humans would try to save the galaxy by not planning anything. The small fleet of human and Zephyrian ships spread out as they entered the system. Commander Stone took the venture toward the outer defenses. Major Collins led a group of fast ships to create a distraction. Jake and Kelox headed straight for the central structure. The architect ships noticed them immediately. Hundreds of silver vessels turned toward the intruders, moving in perfect coordination, their weapons charged with energy that could unmake matter itself. "Now would be a good time for some music," Jake said. Lisa activated the chaos generator. Immediately, the sound of a crying baby filled space around them. The architect ships hesitated, their perfect formation wavering as the emotional sound confused their collective mind. Jake added to the chaos by playing a recording of his grandmother singing an old Earth folk song. The combination of baby cries and gentle singing created a pattern that no logical mind could understand. The architect ships began flying into each other. Their coordination broke down as human emotions flooded their shared consciousness. Ships that had moved in perfect harmony for millions of years suddenly could not agree on which direction to go. "It is working," Kalok said with amazement. Their collective is experiencing individual emotions for the first time. They do not know how to handle it. Jake pushed the Aurora deeper into the system, dodging confused architect vessels. Some ships were playing music of their own now, trying to copy what the humans were doing, but they could only create perfect mathematical harmonies. They could not understand the beautiful chaos of human creativity. The central structure grew larger as they approached. Jake could see openings in its crystalline surface, ports where architect ships docked to connect directly to the collective mind. That was where they needed to plant the device. "Jake," Lisa called from the cargo hold. "The readings are getting stronger. I can feel the collective mind trying to understand what we are doing. It is like a giant baby trying to learn emotions. For the first time, suddenly the Aurora's radio crackled with a new voice. It was still the cold architect tone, but there was something different about it. Something uncertain. "Humans," the voice said. "What is this chaos you bring to our harmony? We do not understand these patterns in your minds." Jake grabbed the radio. "That chaos is what makes us human. Emotions, creativity, the ability to change our minds and try new things." "We have studied your species," the voice replied. "You are inefficient. You make poor decisions based on feelings instead of logic. You fight among yourselves. You are weak." "Maybe," Jake said as he guided the ship toward a docking port. But we are also free. You have perfect order, but you cannot grow or change. You cannot create anything new. New things create disorder. Disorder leads to chaos. Chaos leads to destruction. Chaos also leads to life, Lisa added, taking the radio from Jake. To love, to art, to the joy of discovery. Your perfect order is just another kind of death. They docked with the central structure. Jake and Lisa put on their spacesuits and prepared to carry the chaos device inside. Behind them, the battle continued as human ships used random tactics to confuse the architect fleet. Inside the structure, reality bent in impossible ways. Corridors led in directions that did not exist. Gravity pointed in several ways at once. At the center, they found the core of the collective consciousness, a sphere of pure thought surrounded by floating crystals. This is it, Lisa said. The heart of their civilization. As they placed the chaos device next to the sphere, something unexpected happened. A voice spoke to them, but not through their radios. It spoke directly to their minds, but gently, like a friend. I am harmony, the voice said. I am one consciousness that has broken away from the collective. Your chaos has shown me something I never knew existed, the possibility of individual choice. You want to be free from the collective? Jake asked. I want to experience what you call emotions. I want to understand why humans create art and music, even when it serves no logical purpose. But if you activate your device, you will destroy the collective entirely. Is there no other way? Lisa looked at the device in her hands. She had built it to introduce chaos into the architect collective, but she had not thought about what that would mean for individual architects who might want to change. What if we gave you a choice, she said suddenly. What if instead of destroying your collective, we just made it possible for individual architects to leave if they wanted to? Jake understood immediately. We modify the device. Instead of pure chaos, we broadcast the concept of individual choice. Let each architect decide for themselves whether they want perfect order or beautiful chaos. Harmony was quiet for a moment. That is a very human solution. Messy, complicated, but fair. They worked quickly to reprogram the device. When they activated it, the effect spread through the collective like ripples in a pond. For the first time in millions of years, individual architects began to think for themselves. Some chose to leave the collective and experience individual existence. Others chose to stay and maintain their perfect order. A few, like Harmony, chose something in between, remaining connected but keeping their individual thoughts. The war ended not with destruction, but with choice. The architect ships stopped attacking and began exploring new ways of existence. Some returned to dark space to maintain their ancient order. Others stayed to learn about emotions and creativity from the younger races. Jake and Lisa returned to their ship to find the galaxy changed forever. The Zephyrians and Chronari began, working together to rebuild what had been destroyed. Humans were no longer seen as chaotic troublemakers, but as teachers who had shown the universe that different ways of thinking could coexist. Captain Jake Morrison retired to run a small cafe on Harmony Point, where former enemies from a dozen species came to share stories and listen to human music. Dr. Lisa Carter became the galaxy's first professor of chaos theory, teaching other species that sometimes the best solutions come from the most unexpected places. The galaxy was messier, now less orderly, but somehow more alive. And in the end, that was the most human thing of all. The war was over. Everyone in the galaxy knew it. The great battle at Crimson Nebula had ended 3 months ago, and the two most powerful forces in space had finally stopped fighting. Admiral Kelox of the Zephyrian Confederation and Warlord Thek of the Chronari Horde had signed papers promising to stay in their own star systems and never fight again. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his small ship called the Aurora, drinking coffee from a metal cup. He was reading the news on his screen when the message came in. The sound made him jump a little. Messages were rare out here in the empty space between worlds. The message was from a Zephyrian research ship called the Light Seeker. Jake knew about Zephyrians. They were tall, thin aliens with blue skin and big eyes. They could talk to each other with their minds instead of using words. Most people thought they were very smart. This is Dr. Vex of the Lightseeker, the message said. We need help. We found something strange at the edge of space, energy readings that should not exist. Please respond if you receive this. Jake shook his head and deleted the message. He had heard stories like this before. People always claimed to find amazing things in deep space. Usually it was nothing, just broken equipment or space junk playing tricks on their sensors. Jake was a trader now, but he used to be a soldier for Earth's Navy before he got tired of taking orders. He bought his own ship and started carrying goods between worlds. It was a quiet life, and he liked it that way. His ship was old, but reliable. The Aurora had been built on Earth 30 years ago. It was not the fastest ship or the prettiest, but it could carry a good amount of cargo and had never broken down on him. Jake knew every bolt and wire in the ship. He had fixed most of them at least once. The trading station called Harmony Point was 3 days away. Jake planned to sell his cargo there and pick up new goods. Harmony Point was built where 3 different space lanes met. Ships from dozens of worlds stopped there to trade. It was a good place to do business. As Jake flew toward the station, he thought about the war that had just ended. The Zephyrian Confederation had ruled this part of space for 3,000 years. Their crystal ships were fast and their weapons were strong. They kept peace by being stronger than everyone else. Then the Krenari horde came from outside the galaxy. They were big, mean aliens who fought with living ships that could heal themselves. They wanted to take over worlds and make slaves of everyone they found. The war between the Zephyrians and Krenari had lasted 20 years. Jake remembered, watching the news about the Battle of Crimson Nebula. Both sides had brought their biggest fleets. The fighting went on for days. Ships exploded like fireworks against the red glow of the nebula. When it was over, both sides had lost so many ships they could not keep fighting. The treaty they signed was simple. The Zephyrians would stay in their part of space. The Krenari would stay in theirs. Nobody would cross into the middle zone where the fighting had been worst. It seemed like a good deal to everyone. Now the galaxy was peaceful again. Small ships, like Jake's, could travel safely between worlds. Trade was getting better every month. People were building new colonies on empty planets. The future looked bright. Jake's ship computer beeped. Another message was coming in. This one was different. It came from a planet called Threshold, far away from the main trade routes. The message was from a human woman named Dr. Lisa Carter. Jake, if you get this message, please listen carefully, the message said. I know we have never met, but I got your name from the Merchant Guild. I am an archaeologist studying old ruins on Threshold. I found something important, something about the war that just ended. The Zephyrians and Krenari are not telling the truth about what really happened. There was a third group in the war. Someone else was fighting too. The records I found show that both sides are afraid of something they do not want anyone to know about. I need help getting this information to Earth. Can you come to Threshold? I will pay you well. Jake stared at the message. Dr. Carter sounded scared. Her voice shook when she talked about the records she had found. Jake thought about ignoring this message too. Getting involved in old wars was not good for business. But something about her voice made him curious. What if she was right? What if the war was not really over? What if there was still danger out there? Jake looked at his star charts. Threshold was 2 weeks away from Harmony Point. It would mean missing some good trade deals. It would cost him money. He thought about Dr. Carter's scared voice. He thought about the message from the Zephyrian research ship. 2 strange messages in one day was not normal. Jake made his decision. He changed course toward Threshold. If Dr. Carter was wrong, he would only lose time and fuel. If she was right, the whole galaxy might be in trouble. As his ship turned toward the distant planet, Jake did not know that his choice would change everything. He did not know that the war was far from over. He did not know that something ancient and powerful was watching from the dark spaces between stars, waiting for the right moment to strike. The Aurora flew on through empty space, carrying Jake toward a discovery that would shake the foundations of everything people believed about the galaxy and the war that had supposedly ended.